Hi, everybody. It's Bill Gilliland here this morning, Coach Bill, and I'm here with this is the 6th edition of the Coach Approach, and I'm here with a very special guest today, Shawn Leatherwood of the Architectural Studio. Shawn and I've known each other for a lot of years, and we've worked together, and he's had some great success in his business, and so we want to talk about all things business and coaching and getting the most out of yourself and your team this morning. So welcome aboard, Shawn. It's going to be it looks like it's going to be another great day here in Western North Carolina, and I'm eager to learn. So why don't you give us a little bit of your sort of business journey?
Yep. I spent a long time in college and sort of kind of knew what I wanted to do, but took a long path to get there. 2 undergrads, a graduate degree, interior design and architecture, and spent about 10 years of my life working in Charlotte, sort of learning the ins and outs of the trade, the craft, I guess. Started my business in 2001. I think the month the Twin Towers fell down, so it's quite a shock to be in a economy related business and and the stock market tanks and in the beginning of some tough years there. But we've weathered the storm real good. We currently I've got 5 employees. We do high-end custom homes in the Western North Carolina area primarily, within a 2 to 3 hour radius of the Asheville area. Although we do houses further distance away. We just a year or so ago finished a house in Yosemite, California. We offer architecture and interior design services both. For our clients, we offer the interior design services. We don't do too much interior design that we are not the architect for, but my interior designer on staff's pushing me to change that a little bit. Bill, I don't know how long it's been since we've been working together. I guess 3 years, maybe somewhere in that range.
Probably a little longer than that, but that's okay. Yeah.
Time flies when you're having fun and learning. So we've sort of really the focus of our business with Bill has been trying to get the ratio of our architecture clients that convert over to our interior design services as well. Get that ratio up to as close to 100% as we can. It's a real good service to have. I call it sort of an a la carte menu item that we'd like to become just a standard offering. A lot of interior design firms struggle to get clients. Us having interior design within the confines of the office, we've kind of got a built-in client pool already. I mean, if they trust us to do, their $3, $4, $5 million home on the architecture side, it shouldn't be that hard of a sale to convert over to get them to trust you to do the interiors. So
let me say, when we first knew each other and were working together, at that time, we were more concerned about just getting more business, right?
We were. That was sort of the big push was, I guess, we've always had business. We stayed good even through the downturn in the economy. But the consistency, I think, is what Bill and I really started working on the first year or so, was the consistency on the architecture side, getting leads, converting leads. Our lead time to conversion to paying customer is 6 months to a year from the time I make initial contact with, a lead, a realtor, a contractor, or a client. If we go through the realtors and the contractors, if that's how we meet someone, it can take up to a year after you meet a new builder to actually end up getting one of their clients. It's a real guarded industry. People doing those kinds of homes, they've done it before. So your leads, your contacts in that industry, your contractors and your realtors are real guarded with their clients, as they should be and as we are. If we make contact with a client directly, if they reach out and contact us through word of mouth or find us on our website, that tends to be about a 6-month process before we can get them converted over to a paying customer. So that was our real focus, I think, the first year or so, year and a half even, and then started creeping in okay, now how do we convert those architecture clients over to the interior design side of the business? I think that's sort of the beginning of our work, wouldn't you say, Bill?
Yeah. I mean, probably what we want to do for our audience here is so they can understand a bit about the strategies that it took to go from pretty much you and maybe one maybe a halftime or
Yeah.
one other person in the office to what we have now with, a full team of
Yeah.
5 people and all that. So talk a little bit about, because we have a long lead time in the architecture business. You just alluded to it in that, or you just said it, that it might take a year or 2 or 3 before they gain, for a referral partner would gain trust enough to give you a lead. And then even if we had the lead, it might be 6 months before that closes into to business. So let's talk a little bit about that process.
Well, when Bill and I first started working together, actually, I think I had an interior designer on staff and an office manager, and we had a college intern, that come every summer. And so we, in order it's kind of a catch-22, dog chasing its tail thing. We needed to get some volume up on the architecture side to increase the chances on the interior side. And when you start getting the volume up, then you have to increase some employees to produce the work while I'm out there marketing. That's been, I think, one of our biggest struggles is I was used to, when I started working with Bill, with it being me and an interior designer. And so when we got a big project, then that bogged me down, and the marketing would suffer. And that long lead time, that it's real easy to get caught up in your craft, your job, your business, producing the work, and forget to feed the machine for 6 months or a year down the road. So that's been a real learning process for me. To me, that's where I think all architecture and interior design firms are a lot of creative endeavors sort of fail. Is you go out, you get the work, you get all immersed in the work, and you forget to keep going out and getting more work. And the next thing you know, you look up, you stamp some drawings, you put them out the door, it goes under construction. You don't have anything to draw. So that's and like you said, Bill, a referral partner with a realtor. I mean, it is not uncommon to meet a new realtor who has the kind of clientele that you're after, that you work with the best, to spend a year and a half, even 2 years courting that realtor before the right client comes along that he feels comfortable handing off to you, and that is the right client for you. You may get some looks at some of his customers before then, but they may not pan out. So there's been times where I've spent a year and a half making a relationship with a realtor at a high-end development, and then next thing you know, he's gone and to a different development. So you sort of have to start that process over. So that's a real challenge in this business, and it was a real challenge of mine, and I think it's a real challenge of most creative endeavor kind of businesses. So
I think it's actually a challenge in almost every business. There's a great lesson in that, is that the work we're doing today didn't happen today. The work we get to do today, the work to get that work was done 3, 6 months, a year, 2 years, even sometimes 5, 10 years ago. That we get to do to get to do the things that we really want to do in business. We have to do the work ahead of time. So there's a great lesson right there. We've always got to be marketing.
Yeah, I've got one of our best builders. I would say my best builder, the builder that I work with, that I have great confidence in. I'm not the best, but we've developed a really strong relationship. Morgan Keefe, Malcolm Morgan. I remember I had been in business 2 years. It was 2003, and Malcolm Morgan was calling on me. He came to call on me, even though I was young, only been in business 2 years. I have no idea how he found me, and it took probably 3 to 4 years before we got our first project together. And now, over the last 10 years, 12 years, we've created a really good relationship. And that kind of goes, I look up to that contractor. He's 10 or 11 years older than me, and he had already established himself very strongly in the market that I was after, when I was just starting out and hadn't established myself in that market yet. He's calling on me. And, I think that's a valuable lesson to learn. Even though he was established in there, he was still cultivating younger architects and interior design firms to bring along with him. And it took us 5 years before we got our first project together. Now there's not a time in the year that we don't have at least one project under construction with him, sometimes 2 at a given time. So you kind of look at an established contractor like that and realize the work they are putting in to establish new contacts instead of just laying back and relying on the ones that they've already developed. So, that's a real lesson for me there as well. And it's just, you just got to sort of set up your schedule and prioritize your time to get that done. It's a real challenge. as
Yeah,
we
well,
know.
I mean, there's a second lesson in there is just because you have business, which he did,
Yeah.
then
Yeah.
you never you never ever stop marketing. You're always looking for the next, and you're always looking for that next level. You know,
Yes.
what's the next? Where's our next level?
Yes.
What's the next level?
Yep. That's exactly. And you've got to identify your targets before you can hit them, and so it's a whole big complex series of steps. And I think one of the things that you've done for me, Bill, is and I think it's true of all business owners and all people in general. You can't see the forest for the trees sometimes, and sometimes you only see the trees and can't see the forest. So vice versa. So trying to keep that regular schedule of coming back, circling back around, remembering the basics. I think Bill and I've been working a lot in the last, say, 3 to 4 months, really since last December, so start of the year especially, circling back to some of the very basic things that we worked on, Bill, in the beginning, because you get so caught up in the day to day and the complexities of various other aspects of your business, you forget those marketing basics, making contacts, referral partners, looking for the new targets, the new people you want to meet, the new markets that are out there, the new market share that you need to be going after, and thinking. I think you really ought to be thinking 2 to 5 years down the road, even though I forget to do that.
Yeah, well, no, it's easy to get caught up in the day to day. I mean, if you're going to be a professional, if you think about a professional athlete, for example, the top of the top are always working on their basics.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. I
And
mean,
so coming back to basics, professionals have the basics and they continue to hone the basics regardless.
yeah. Yeah.
I mean,
And
Steph Curry still works on his shooting. He's probably one of
yes.
the best shooters ever in basketball, but he works on shooting every single day.
Yep.
It's
There's,
basic.
exactly. I mean, and he probably goes through, certain warm up drills that are just basics, that you do every day, dribbling every day, that kind of, you've got to do that. And that has been, I think Bill can confirm that is where you tend to forget running a business. You've got your personalities of your staff. You've got your intricacies of your day in, day out, your billing, your receipts, and all this stuff, your taxes. And I've got a good office manager. She's fantastic with that. I'll give her, sort of great control over that, but you still, as a business owner, have to get involved and sit down and think about that stuff. And then you take your eye off the ball, and because you're looking at these other things. And it's daily. You've got to almost touch base with each one of those things daily, even if it's, after work on the ride home, listen to the radio, you circle back in your mind and try to remember your basics. And I say this stuff like I do this stuff all the time. That is where, you tend to take your eye off the ball. I know those things, but I tend to forget those things. And that's where, Bill's been great help at help me go, whoa, 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 whoa. What's your leads for? I mean, I think we start almost every call or finish every call each week with looking ahead to next month, 6 months. We tend to look at 6 and 10 months down the road, 6 and 12 months down the road because of the nature of my business. But if I wasn't sort of having that conversation, I think every Tuesday morning at 8:15, I would go 3 months and forget, because I would just be immersed in what I do. We love it. Typically, you should love what you do. And so when we've got a big project, I will get sucked into that because I love what I do. And I will forget about the stuff that I don't like to do. The marketing aspect is, I am a very social person. I'm not bashful or shy at meeting new people. So you would think that, I'm at home in a room full of people. I'm very comfortable. You would think that marketing would be real easy for me. It is when I get there, but planning to go and take my time away from sitting there drawing and designing and doing what I love is the hard part. Once I get there, once I get on the road, as I tell Bill, I've just got to get on the road. I find it very hard for me to say next Friday I'm going to get on the road and go marketing because I hate planning and taking away a day from what I love to do that. So I tend to get up one morning, one of the week, and just go, you know what, I'm going today, short notice. And when I get on the road, I'm good at it. I love getting out there and talking to people, telling them about what we do, but finding a way to plan that into your schedule is a real challenge. So
Well, it's easy to do It's easy to do the comfortable things.
Yeah.
You know, it's a little bit, even though you're comfortable, and I get it, and I think there's a good lesson here for a lot of people. It's like, how do you just start?
Yeah.
You know, if they're good at it, they're doing it, but you're sitting in your office, or you're sitting at your home, and you're thinking, man, I'm pretty, it feels pretty good here. I can, I've got business now.
Yep.
But that constant thing of like, okay, where's the next business coming from?
Yep.
Where's the next business coming from? And the other lesson that you said in there that I think's highly to point out is that people need somebody outside looking in, asking, just asking the question, because you it's not like you don't know what to do.
Yeah.
I mean,
have you done it? Have you done it? No, that's the problem.
Yeah. Well, it's an interesting one, and we'll come back to that in a minute, because you come out of an athletic background, and we can talk about the similarities and difference between athletics and business in a little bit. But I want to talk a bit about part of your strategy has been to, all right, get the good architecture clients, and then how do we convince them to let us do the whole thing? Because it becomes easier for us to do, if we can do the interiors and the overall architecture, we can really, it's almost like it's
doubling your business.
Well, it's doubling your business, but it's also, it's better for the client too, because
it is.
Because Absolutely. It's like, to me, it's like doing half a painting.
Yes.
Like you're doing a piece of the painting, and then you let somebody else come in and do the rest of the art.
Yeah, you do the underpainting, and then somebody else comes in and does the highlighting, and there can be a real dropped ball there, a lack of cohesion,
right.
a lack of design philosophy. So, but it should be an easy sell to sell clients from the architecture into the interior side. But there's the hard part of it is, we're doing second and third and fourth homes, vacation homes, retirement homes, and a lot of these people have done this before. So they tend to look for their architect and the locality where they're building their house, but they tend to have had an interior designer on their last house or their last two houses that they've worked with, that they feel comfortable with a working relationship. So sort of, I won't say stealing them away from the last interior designer they used, but convincing them to trust you. You would think it's a real easy sale between the architecture and interiors, but the clients tend to view those as two distinctly different things when really they're not. So that's part of what we've been working on is getting our clients to realize the connection.
You have a uniqueness, because it's actually quite rare to have an architecture background and degree, and also have an interior design background and degree. Is that fair?
That's true. Yeah. So a lot of clients have an interior designer and an architect, and there's a few getting to be more and more architecture firms that have interior design services as well. But not that many, at least in the high-end residential. You would think there would be more. That was one of I love doing both. But the fact that's sort of, at least here in Western North Carolina, there's not that many that offer both. There's a lot of architects that offer design build services, but architects that offer architecture and interiors both is not the norm. So in some ways, clients aren't expecting that, but it is a real helpful tool, and we're getting better and better at our conversion rate, at getting people to take our interior services as well as our architecture services, and committing to those up front. So that I know I've got both sides of the office fed for the next 6 months or whatever it is that the project's going to be taken. So
yeah.
We're doing good there.
I'm wondering, just out loud here, as we're talking, like I thought, well, okay, the architecture comes up first. You design the house, then the builder comes, and so the design build thing might seem like a normal thing, and then the interior designer tends to come in at the not at the end of the project, but in the second half.
During construction. Yeah. They come in during.
But if you can put it all together, then that's going to be better for the client, and they're going to end up with something they're going to be happier with, and is, like you say, more cohesive design.
It is, and so and they cycle real well with each other. So I think one of the other struggles we've had, Bill, is Western North Carolina is a great destination. It's a destination location. It's like the beach. It's a retirement location. But it's rural. You know, outside of Asheville, there's not a lot of sort of real urban areas. So getting qualified, talented people, you know, up to this area is harder than you think too. So, you know, we've got a really good staff. You know, they're, you know, young and growing staff, but it's you know, our resource pool up here is not as big as it is when I worked in Charlotte. I mean, there was a, you know, you could find an interior designer and an architect with 20 years experience by lunch today, you know, in a
Right.
more urban area. So we've struggled with that as well, and making sure our staff, you know, our clients have a comfort level with their staff. So we do have the ability, like you say, through that architecture process to continue selling our services for the interiors if they don't hire us for both up front. And that happens quite a bit. You know, people, and I don't blame them, you know, they're spending, you know, a bunch of money on something. So they don't, you know, if you give them, it's nice to get them to sign the contract for the architecture and the interiors up front because you know what you've got. But a lot of them will go, well, let's deal with the architecture first, and then when we get through that, we'll, you know, they're sort of test driving you to make sure that you're a good fit. You can't blame them for that. And then by the end, they'll go, okay, let's convert over and let's go ahead and start do the interiors about the time we break ground in construction, and that's about the time we need to start. You know, at least on the furniture side of the interior stuff, we'd start on the selections for fit and finish and things like that earlier, but before they break ground. But so it works two ways for us. We get them on board early, or we try to get them converted over to the interior side by the time we're starting to wrap up the architecture drawings and break ground.
Yeah. So that's a good program. Talk a little bit about fit, because that's been a big deal for us in finding the right ideal sort of clients. And you know, and I think that's a, for clients, they need to be asking that too. Am I, you know, is this person, you know, is this firm a fit for us? So
they do, and you know, I think all business owners go through that going, well, boy, I've got to get food on the table, right? You know, I've got to have the next job. So you tend to sometimes, you know, not out of desperation. I don't think we've been to that point of desperation. You know, I've been in business 18 years since I won, so 18 years now. But there are times where, for whatever reason, you maybe, you know, take a contract, take a client on that's really not a good fit for you. And Bill and I've talked about this before, and sometimes you think they're not, and then you find out they are by the end of the job. You work through it, but you know, that's a big temptation, is to just take work, you know, any work, and you've got to be strong. I know one of Bill's other clients is a mutual friend of mine, Trey and Stephen at Tuckasegee Construction. Shout out to them. They're gonna be my Morgan Keefe one of these days. And they you know, they're young, and we're, you know, I know I talk to them a lot. I don't know what Bill talks with them about, but I'm sure it's the same thing about making sure you find the right fit for your business, for your personality, for your style, and my business style. For the way you operate, and that they're a good fit for you, you're a good fit for them, because there's nothing that'll blow a project up, or blow a relationship with a client up any faster than to take on a project that you really shouldn't. They're not your kind of work. They're not your kind of project. You just took it because you wanted to get a contract or get more work. So I've found that it's better to pass most of those by. You know.
yeah. Have you got an example? Have you got an example of one that maybe went a little bit sideways? Just a quick anecdote.
You know, well, I mean, you know, we've had one going on now that it
Without
started out,
naming names, of course.
yes, yeah, absolutely. You know, it started out good, and then it seemed to go sideways. And you know, I think there were times that Bill and I were thinking, man, I just need to walk away from this. Now this doesn't prove our previous point, but you know, we worked through that, and man, I've learned a lot off of that project. That's one of my favorite projects and my favorite clients now. You know, but quite often, you know, you've got to know when to walk away. 10 or 12 years ago, you know, I do, and this one I look back on and go, that was the best move I ever made. You know, we get hired to do a project. We go through the first preliminary sketches, and right away, I could tell the owner had a different expectation. Now, their expectation wasn't wrong. It was just different than what I interpreted it to be. You could tell right away, and you just walk away, and that is the smart thing to do. Make sure you treat them well. and just go, guys, give them the name of somebody else. In the long run, that was the best business decision I probably ever made. I'm still very good friends with that previous partial client for a short period of time. They ended up going through two other architects. Well, one other architect ended up with a third. They found the right match for them. They did a great house, great looking house. And, I'll have a glass of wine with him whenever I run into him at the clubhouse at that development, and talk and laugh and have a good time. So, it was a smart move for me. That was, I was young and I just picked up another employee at the time. So you felt like you needed to get a contract, get food on the table. And, if we had continued in that project, that would have probably been a nightmare for us and for the client. And in the long run, that is a bad thing. So we may have even finished the drawings. We may have even got the house built, but it would have probably not ended well for anyone. So you got to resist that temptation. In my business, especially when you're thinking 6 months to a year to 18 or 24 months down the road as to the kind of work. So you just keep trying to feed the machine, but you've got to be really, I think, spend a lot of time, Bill and I have, at trying to define what the client for me is. Who am I a good match for? Who's a good match for me? Who am I a good match for? And that's part of those basics, those dribbling basics that a basketball player goes through. That try to remember that and not just get excited in the moment. We all like to feel like people like us and want to hire us. So just because they want to hire you doesn't mean you necessarily should sign the contract always.
Yeah, no, success is, my friend Paul Dunn taught me that success is often what you say no to.
Yes.
And, so success is what you say no to.
That's a hard lesson to learn.
Yeah, it's real hard, particularly if you have any kind of a sales bent at all, because you want to make the sale, you want to pack and get the sale. And that's the goal, is to get the sale. So yeah, it's a great lesson. And thanks for sharing.
And the goal can't be just to get the sale. The goal has to be that is one of 10 pieces of the goal. The first piece, get the sale and then get the work done, and then end up with a happy client in the end. So that's the success. The whole ball of wax is the success, not just coming in and going, here's a new signed contract. Let's go have a celebratory cocktail. That's just the beginning. So
yeah, that's just the start of it. So talk a little bit about, part of what we figured out in the fit piece is how you can, in business, there's three ways to niche. You can niche vertically, which would be, maybe in a neighborhood. You can niche horizontally, which would be, in our case, maybe size of homes, that sort of thing. And you can also niche in our process and the way we do things. And so the model that we've come up with, in a way, is part of the process. Now, what's really happened with us is we've kind of niched in at least 2 out of 3 of those, and it's stronger if you can niche in all 3.
Yes.
So talk a little bit about the model and coming up with who's a good fit.
I think the first step we took was I had to decide what I wanted to do. What is it why do I do what I do? My thesis advisor in grad school in architecture told me, when I came in, I wrote my first thesis statement. He said, why do you really want to be an architect? And I kind of looked at him and he said, go away and don't come back and start your thesis until you know to the depth of your soul why you want to do this. And that's a little overly dramatic, but it's true. And it was very true to survive this profession. He said, architecture will chew you up and spit you out unless you know deep in your heart why you want to do it. Well, I think to find your niches and your right clients and what you want to do with your business, what you need to be doing with your business, you really need to understand why you do what you want to do and what it is why you're in this business. And so I think we spent a little time on that, which is something that I've started to develop, I think, all along to have been in business already when Bill and I met. But then, all right, figure out your goals and your personal ambitions. Those can be lots of things. It can be money. It can be, your business runs without you, all this stuff. And then start to look at the different niches in the market that will allow those things to happen, the different clients. Is it a higher priced home? Are you doing more homes at a lower price? What are you doing? So I think, you've got to figure out why you do what you do, what you are good at, and then start to target those niches based on that.
Holy cow, that's really good stuff. So find your why first.
Yeah.
Figure out what you're great at, and then marry those with the people who want your why and your what.
I think you probably gave me the link to this video first, and it's on my playlist in my videos in the car. I probably listen to it at least twice or three times a year. The TED Talk, Simon Sinek Why, and when I hire someone new in the interview process, I have them watch it. you know,
Yeah.
and that is such a great video, and it's true, I think, of any business. You got to know the why, and once you figure that out, man, that changes. I swear that changes all the time too. My basic why is always the same, but there's little nuances of the next circle out from the inner why that are always changing with the tides. And so you got to recenter back to that, and which is a great diagram in that video, the circles, and that's how I think you look for your different niches, and whether you go vertically, horizontally, what do you do? And we've been working on some things with Bill that are changing, sort of whether it's vertical or horizontal, and they're long-term things that I think will put in place some cash flow that allows me to do other things that go back vertical. So they'll give me a more horizontal base of new business. Then I can go vertical and go even higher vertical than I wanted to go vertical, before. So that's kind of some of the goal now, to tease people into some of the things that we're doing. I think with the stock stuff that we're doing. So that's a real complex thing to deal with. It sounds real simple, but it's real complex for a business owner who's living in the day-to-day world of running the business.
Yeah, it sounds big picture, but until you get that right, really, you can't make a plan.
You can't. You stubbing your toe all the time. You really are. And we've gone through that at my office in the last year. We've had some changes that have taken place, and and you get bogged down in some of that, and you shouldn't have, and you took your eye off the big picture, and you start finding out you're stubbing your toe, and you would think that you wouldn't do that because you've been thinking about these sort of things, working with Bill for 3 or 4 years, but man, we're all basic animals. We all resort back to the comfort, just doing the comfortable things, and forget about the things that we're not as good at, we're not as comfortable doing. So that's a real temptation. You just got to do it. See, I go back to the marketing. I mean, I love to go on to go talk to people and tell them about my business, tell them what we do, and I get excited about it when I do, and show them drawings and show them pictures of our work. But man, I hate scheduling the day to go do it. That's just real contradictory to me. But I'm real good at it when I go. Bill always says, get on the road. You always make it rain when you get on the road. But I hate planning to get on the road. So there's sort of my quicksand, I think. Really, Bill, it's one of my weaknesses is
either we get someone else to do it for you, or
I'm good at it. I love doing it, but getting me to pack a suitcase and go do it.
I'm talking about schedule you.
Yeah. I figured out that I just every now and then I just wake up one morning and I go, you know what? I don't have any clients in town today or tomorrow, Steve, and I've got a great staff. And I sit there and go, there's no big deadlines today or tomorrow or Friday. I can go, and I just decide, okay, today I'm going, and I'll pick up the phone and I'll call, a couple of contacts that I've been wanting to meet, or some people that I've met already and that I'm sort of courting and working on a relationship with, and say, hey, are you available today? And I'll make a big circle through and hit 2 or 3 people. So it works, but it's I think you're right. You just go, okay, somebody just needs to pick up the phone and schedule me at some time.
Somebody could schedule you, or the other option is keep doing it the way you're doing it. At some point, that's not quite as efficient.
It's not as effective.
The other thing, there is some advantages. I mean, I've done what we call bold calls, and it works quite well. Sometimes if you call people, they're like, I can't possibly meet with you. But if you actually go and show up, they'll see you.
Yes.
It's an interesting thing on bold calls, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. And when I do hit the road to go into the upstate of South Carolina, and I'll have one meeting scheduled with a contractor, or realtor, head of sales, or the developer or something, I will always look for other people in that area that, within a half-hour drive, that even though I haven't been able to schedule with them because I've got a meeting scheduled for lunch and it's going to take the rest of the afternoon, if I end that meeting early, I will stop by. And if nothing else, you stop by, you hand their Secretary of Business card, tell them you were in the area, stop by. I mean, it works. I've got a handful of builders that are great builders, and I always go, what do I need to do to get more of your work? And you go, man, you tend to give out the name of the last person that you talk to because they're on your mind,
Right.
So just dropping by and dropping a business card off at the front desk, or sticking it in their mailbox, or bringing some donuts or something.
Yeah.
Some ways you hate that when
Yeah.
people just show up, if they show up at the wrong time and you don't have time. But if you just stop by and say, hey, I was just in there and want to stop by and say, hey, and drop a business card, it does work.
Yeah, well, I think it's a good lesson there in that you've got one scheduled, so you have a firm appointment. You're not going to waste your time.
Yes.
And then
Yes.
you can do the bold calls around a good solid
Yes.
appointment. That's how
Yeah.
I would recommend doing it.
Yeah, I'll try to have, if I'm going to go out on the road marketing and be gone for the night, I'll try to have one meeting for today at lunch, and then another one tomorrow at lunch. And then in between is just whoever's in there. And a lot of times I will just, if I drive past a nice development, I'll just circle in and stop in and say, hey, I was just passing by. You guys do nice work. Here's an introduction, drop off a portfolio, that kind of thing. So you never know. It's funny how some of those things really open the doors for you.
Yeah. So talk a little bit about, I mean, we'll switch gears here a minute. You've been, you're an athlete,
Yeah.
an elite athlete in college, and
60 pounds ago.
and talk about the differences in athletics and in business, or the similarities, whichever way you want to go.
It's yeah, I mean, I see similarities in it. I joke, I was a distance runner in high school, and third in the state in distance and 2 mile. Went to college on cross country and track scholarship, all Southern Conference multiple times. I won a national championship at 5,000 meters as an 18-year-old. By the time I graduated college, I'd gone from a national championship at 18-year-old to 78th or something. So I peaked early, but I spent 10 years of my life really dedicated, really training. You can't train at that level and run at that level without at least thinking you're going to be a world record holder or a gold medalist in the Olympics. And so that I guess the dedication, the stamina, that it takes to do that, and every day in, day out, it's really, if I have to stay up on that drawing, I go, this isn't hard. That's not 140 miles a week. It's so, I mean, that was hard, running 20 plus miles a day. I mean, that was hard. So, to me, I equated it back to that. I think one of the friend we mentioned earlier, he's a golfer and was a golf pro, and he thinks in sports analogies too. And I really think there is a lot to that. It's just the dedication and the commitment to a goal, a long range goal that is very, very important. I think athletes, at least, definitely at the college level, and a lot of athletes at the high school level, have that mindset, because they're thinking about a goal that's bigger than today, bigger than next week. 5 years down the road, where do you want to be? 10 years down the road, where do you want to be? So that's been a real help, I think, with working with Bill. Is in a lot of ways that's what Bill's doing for you. So I guess I already understood that process, where a lot of people don't. They tend to think in much shorter time spans, and then it's just the dedication to take the steps to, like you say, Steph Curry's doing does the dribbling drills every morning probably. It's interesting. In the first year or two of my life, we drew Dale Curry's house when I worked in Charlotte. So Stephon Curry wasn't even born yet, but there was a full size basketball court in their basement, and that's where you go. Steph Curry was going to be great, because I'm sure his dad had him down there from the minute he was able to stand up and dribble a ball, doing the basic dribbling drills and thinking long range, right? You see where the kid is today, and that at 6 years old, he was already thinking about an NBA championship, that long range goal. And that's a real athletic mindset that I think is very, very applicable to business. I mean, a lot of other things can get you there, I think, and give you that mindset. But I know athletics, especially at the college level, NCAA Division I level, really gets you there, thinking that you come in as a 18-year-old freshman and you're competing against a fifth-year senior who's 22, 23 years old. You are not going to win. It was, I mean, the summer before I in between high school and college is when I won my national championship at 5,000 meters. And I remember my first cross country race my freshman year was in Charleston, South Carolina at Citadel, and I finished 27th. And I went from 3 months earlier winning a national championship to finishing 27th. And I almost was ready to hang my shoes up. And on the ride back, the coach pulled me aside. He said, "Quit looking at your finish number and look at how many upperclassmen were ahead of you. When you're a senior, where would you have finished today?" And so that kind of long range thinking and it saved my running career, I think. We all have egos. And so I went from the national champion to 27th. Couldn't fathom how I'd run so poorly. And I actually ran well, but I was very disgusted. So, I think, thinking about your business and those kind of goals, that coach told me that day. He let me pout for, I guess it was, 8 o'clock at night on the bus ride home, and I'd probably been pouting for 3 hours and 4 hours, and he finally came back, sat down, and said, "Quit." He said, "You pouted long enough." So trying to think long term like that is a very applicable athletics lesson towards business. I think very applicable.
Yeah. So yeah, having a longer term goal, and then doing the things, the
Yes.
small things, consistently to get better along the way. It is a race. It is a marathon. It's not a 100-yard dash.
Yep. I mean, on that conversation on the bus ride home, it was okay. Now start thinking about where you would have finished today if you were 23 instead of 18. And then on Monday at practice, it was okay. Now what steps do we need to do today to have you there 5 years from now when we go back to the same race in 5 years? What steps do we need to do today? And the next week, and the next 6 months, the next year, the next 4 years, so that in 5 years you are where you want to be in that race you ran last Saturday. And that's the way it works. And it's hard. You just get frustrated that you didn't finish as good as you should at the race, and you don't, and you come in on Monday to practice, and you don't do the right things and think long term and do the basics and the fundamentals to get you there long term. It is a long race. Very few of us, finance our retirement the first 2 years of our business and make millions and quit. So
that's right. I think that's right. Most overnight successes take 15 years, is the old saying.
Yeah. And most and those that seem like most overnight successes, they probably did take 15 years. And then most of those very rarely quit. They go on to something else. So it's a long-term prospect. It is a very long-term prospect, and doesn't mean you can't have success on a weekly basis, a daily basis. You should. I think every day you need to look at what your successes were that day, or first thing in the morning, look what your successes were the day before, and then plot out for the end of the day what your success needs to be for that day, and reevaluate it every day, every week, every 6 months, every year.
Yeah. Well, once you have a goal and then you have the mindset to achieve that goal, then the body tends to follow the mind, right?
It does. And you need to understand, you can't just pick a random goal either. I mean, you can, I guess, but you need to understand the goal, and you need to understand the steps it's going to take. And if you don't, you need to find somebody that does understand that, and you need to learn from them. And I think that's where business coaching comes in handy, and talking to your colleagues, your peers, people that you admire. That's one of the things Bill and I've talked about doing is, who do I want to be when I grow up? And there's a couple of architects out there that I just really, really admire. I haven't gone to have lunch with them yet. That's something I need to keep on my list and do. And Bill's like, call them, go have lunch with them, take a trip, drive out there, go have lunch with them, and find out, from their point of view, how did they get to where they are today to be the person that you admire, that you always joke, say you want to be when you grow up. You've got to, so picking a goal is one thing, but you've got to understand how other people who've achieved the same goal got there, and then cater that, I think, to you and your strengths and your weaknesses. You can't do it just like them. You're not them, but you can sure learn about the pitfalls to watch out for, about the ups and downs of getting there, and then overlay that with your personality, your motivations, your why, all of that stuff. So that's that's real similar. I mean, when I was running, I was hanging out with gold medalists. We'd go to road races, and after the race, you just hung out in the crowd with you're hanging out with Pat Porter, Liz Jennings, all these people, Craig Virgin. I've drank beer with Craig Virgin a bunch. He's the only American to ever win the World Cross Country Championships, and he won the damn thing twice. And so you're hanging out with those people, and I couldn't train like Craig Virgin. I was not Craig Virgin. I didn't have the same mindset, but hanging out and having beer and talking to him on a personal level and learning his path and his journey was very, very, very influential to me. And here I'm 51, and I haven't talked to him in 20 years, but he's still, understanding other people's paths is important that got to your goal.
Yeah, no, I think that's great advice. I think the networking piece is often overlooked. We want to keep our head down, and you can't do this stuff by yourself. I don't think you can. And there's people that live the way.
Yeah, somebody out there has, but damn, it's part skill and part luck, and very rarely do all of those fall into place. I mean, you've got, and your employees can be a good sounding board too, and they should be. But I think one of the biggest benefits to Bill for me has been he is an outside party looking in, and he's not caught up in my day-to-day minutia. He's aware of it all, but it's real easy for me to get sidetracked, and it's real easy for him to pull me back in. And I think that's one of the real assets to the coaching, is all right, all that's noise, and I've always got noise going on. Everybody always has noise in the background, and we tend to get caught up in that and not in the things that we should be. So
perfect. So is there anything else you'd like to tell other business owners, or any piece of advice you'd give them?
Keep plugging, man.
What was that?
Keep plugging.
Keep plugging. Yeah, okay. Persistence. Yeah.
When we have our group meetings, with other business owners in the area that work with Bill, try to make all of them, but you don't always make all of them. And man, we'll be sitting at a table. We'll have a group session with, sometimes there's 6 and 8 of us. Sometimes there's 20 of us at a big group session. All the people Bill's coaching in sort of the Western North Carolina area. And you'll be sitting there at a table with an accountant, a marketing company, head of a marketing and branding agency, with a contractor. Sometimes people totally, a jeweler owns a jewelry store business, totally unrelated to my business. But damn, you sit there and you realize at the table, all our businesses are related. So that's been a real plus too. I know it's hard to get that many different business owners to come together on the same day sometimes, but that's a real beneficial thing, I think. Just realizing that there's certain things about business that are true. I don't give a damn whether you're selling widgets or designing houses or doing interior design or being an accountant. There's a core group of business principles that are truisms amongst all businesses. So those are the kinds of basics that we tend to forget, I think, as business owners.
Yeah. Yeah, well, Shawn, this has been good. There's a lot of nuggets of wisdom in here for other business owners, and so I really appreciate you taking the time this morning to join us. I think we'll wrap it up with that. And
okay.
If somebody wanted to reach out to you, what would be the best way to say thank you?
Check out our website.
Okay, what's the website? Yeah.
www.mslassoc.com. Take a look at our work. You can shoot me an email through the website.
Okay. So the website's probably the best way for them to check it out. All right. Well, what I'll do is I'll put a link to the website in the little notes to the video when I post it around, on YouTube and around the world. So.
Yep. All right. Thank you, Bill.
Okay, cool. Well, have a great day. We'll talk to you soon.
Thanks. You too. Bye. Yep.